I am calling to order the meeting of the Economic Development Committee for Wednesday, December 20th at 6:34 p.m. I'm going to do a roll call vote for those people who are here as I see them. I see Karen.
Here.
I see Michael Moorhead.
Here.
I see Michael Nordstrom.
Here.
Upside down. And I see Rob Anderson here. So we do have a quorum. All members are here. So we're calling this meeting to order. As chair, I sometimes don't have anything to report. However, this is actually new and unique and something I want to make sure everyone is aware of. The state has released its economic development plan. It's short, it's 66 pages, and it hits upon things that have been deemed important from the Healy Driscoll administration. I think it's kind of somewhat informative to some of the discussions and some of what is happening on Route 9. That one of the key things for them, one of the fundamentals of good economic development is actually housing. So even though they have created a new secretariat headed by Ed Augustus, this economic development plan does hit upon housing. It actually says that we have had some outmigration from the state as a result of the pandemic and the high cost of housing. So within that document, they've said that there is a need for 200,000 housing units. And that's just within the first 21 pages. They also hit upon infrastructure, workforce, and trying to be the leaders in certain industry sectors. Those industry sectors are, again, maintaining our role in life sciences, as well as new industries such as clean energy, robotics, and advanced manufacturing. So I just want to make sure that people knew that this economic development plan has been released. Again, it's pretty short. I do think some of the things that we're trying to do, such as mixed use, trying to embrace housing, and looking for ways in which to integrate our infrastructure plans with some of the economic development strategies for the community line up very well. So again, as a chair reporting, I just want to make sure that people were aware of it. Leah, you may have seen an email from Kevin Kuros about it.
I haven't yet, but I'll be on the
Okay.
lookout for it.
If not, I will forward it. I am on his distribution list for my work, so I'll send it to you. Maybe you can just make sure that the select board sees it and knows that it's out
Sure.
there, because I think there's some very informative things for them in embracing, some of the goals of the administration. So I'll send that to you, and that's and I guess that is the one report, one thing of note that I want to bring people's attention to. The second thing is, I guess we did receive someone submit through the website that they want to volunteer for the EDC. I'm very excited that we might have someone else join us. And so I think the next step for them is to speak with someone in the town manager's office and then get on a select board agenda to be interviewed. So those are, that's it for me. Opening it up to the other members of the committee. Are there any other reports from people? Okay. Seeing none, I should have asked if people had any questions about the report I gave. My apologies.
Is it anything that you can share, or is it?
Oh yes,
Online
yeah.
somewhere?
It's posted on the state's website, and what I can do is again at the end of this meeting, I will forward it from my work email where I received it to Lee, and make sure that Leah, and make sure that everyone sees it.
Is it just the
it's a,
Massachusetts Economic Development Plan 2024 or something, or?
yeah. Yep. I mean, it's,
Sure, I can find it.
again, it's a personal opinion. It's 66 pages. It's such a refreshing thing that it is short, it's reasonable, and doesn't overwhelm. So it's a pretty nice, easy read, and it does have some policy positions, which I think line up very well with some of the stuff that we're trying to do from an economic development perspective. So no member reports. Leah, maybe you want to take any reports from the coordinator position?
So I just want to address Karen. I got your message in the chat. I'm not sure why my name is showing up on my screen as Leah Emerson. I'm not sure what it's showing up on yours.
No, I changed it. I don't know why
You're
mine
fine.
said that.
Yeah, Karen's was just listed as your name. You're
That's right.
correct, Leah.
Okay, great. Good to know.
And
Okay,
Michael's not
so
there or upside down, right?
yeah, well, we know he's there because the palm tree, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to go into this fairly quickly. I've had a busy couple of weeks trying to go to evening meetings, and I did attend the last CPC meeting wherein Jim Falcone, the owner of 21 Boston Road, formally withdrew his FY24 CPC application. And the main reason being that there were so many worthy applicants that the committee was charged with, I think a few of them came in late in the cycle, that he felt it would be better to withdraw and reapply for FY25. And that will give him time to do a little bit more research, look into alternative funding, and cross his T's and dot his I's. So I'm still I tried to reach out to Kevin Miller at the suggestion of Freddie Gillespie to see what they would recommend on the level of the Historical Commission. I have not yet heard back from Kevin, but I'm hoping that Jim and I can schedule a meeting with him or go before the Historical Commission, whatever they prefer, to discuss it, if there's any options that they would suggest. As far as the planning board outcome from last Monday, I don't really need to recount this for 3 of my members, but for you, Rob, and for anyone who's tuned in, who wasn't able to attend, the long and short of it is the planning board, given their condensed timeline that they're on for MBTA communities, to get that to the point where it can be taken to town meeting, didn't really feel that this was the time to pursue grant funding for an in-depth study or analysis along the Route 9 corridor for selective rezoning, really for mixed use and multifamily housing by right. And again, my presentation was not suggesting that we look at the entire length of the corridor, but particular sections that would lend itself to either development or redevelopment. So I did pledge to hold off in the interest of staying in our lane and being helpful and supportive. But they did encourage us to track that process, keep an eye out for the maps that are going to be coming out probably by January that are going to indicate where the potential overlay zone locations could be for MBTA communities. And, I'm not sure what your thoughts are on it, Rob, if you feel like we might miss out on an opportunity by applying now because, that funding wouldn't come in until later next year. But Jesse Stein also offered that they don't know that this is even going to pass at town meeting. And so in that case, we're going to have to revisit this anyway.
Are you talking about the MBTA zoning?
Yes, the zoning overlays. Mm-hmm.
I'd say I I was somewhat under the impression that if you didn't adopt MBTA zoning, that you would kind of be shutting yourself off for future grant rounds. So it might be, you know, okay.
Well, it still has to pass at town meeting with those locations, and I'm not sure what that process would entail, because I don't know that there's very many communities who have taken it to town meeting and then have it rejected. But it would more or less indicate to me that they may have to go back to the drawing board and look at relocating some of the zoning overlays and then take it back again for a special fall town meeting. And that was the impression that I got.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
I mean, we
I'm
have to pass something by December 31st, 2024, correct? We have to have a plan.
Yes,
And if
Yeah.
not correct, we lose, whatever grant possibilities. But I think that there's also talks of, and sorry to pick up, Leah, but I think there's also talks of like penalizing communities that don't come up with a plan. I think.
Yeah.
From what I
Yeah.
read, so.
Yeah, I will just note, again, it's within the, economic development plan. They did bring up the MBTA Communities Act. And they did bring up the need for housing. And so it is in there. It's in their plan.
Yep.
And so it is going to be something that's, important to them going forward.
one of the things that I did run across in my research and putting that outline together to kind of guide our discussion with the planning board last week was whether or not 40R, a smart growth overlay, had ever been considered anywhere in town. I think it was part of the 2015 housing production plan. They had proposed that, looking at that around the commuter rail station. I don't know what, if anything, came of it. The current planning board didn't seem to be all too familiar with 40R, and I know that it's probably just about 50 communities statewide or just under that have adopted that so far. But I thought it should be kept in mind as a potential solution, because whereas 40B precludes the town from getting any state funding, 40R would actually qualify the town for some amount of state funding or reimbursement, and then it puts you in line for 40S, which in the case of multifamily housing, if there were children that needed to go to area schools, it would also ultimately reimburse the town for some of those expenses as well. So I did just sort of introduce that. I told the board that, it wasn't anything that we needed to go into any depth or discussion on last week, but it was just a thought. And I tend to think that it might be a solution for the Dell EMC property, since I think the rapid development of that site, the fears and the concerns have been that it would be too much, too soon, too fast for the town to be able to absorb it. And so, I don't know if that's a possibility. I should mention that Karina Quinn had just received an email this last week from Mass Econ, and they have scrutinized statewide these larger commercial sites. And they would like to schedule a meeting with her and myself, and probably a select board member or two. Anyone from this committee, of course, would be welcome to join, and obviously some members of the planning board, to discuss the commercial redevelopment of at least a portion of the site. So I'll keep you posted on that. Karina is out until January 2nd. So she told this gentleman to reach back out, and she would be available after the first week of January. So stay tuned on that note.
Yeah, I'd probably want to see Doug, and find out what he's thinking,
Okay.
on that. Because it's either it's Doug or Peter.
I'm pretty certain that I forwarded that email to you all just to make you aware of it as an FYI. So go back into your email and see if you can find that, Rob, and you'll see who the author of that email was. I can't recall their name off the top of my head right now. Moving on, if you don't mind, I'm going to go on to the 250 Turnpike status. Just briefly, I did stay on at the planning board last week, and they had their attorney present since their project there was on the agenda. There are some contingencies on the site that are temporarily holding some things up. There was sort of a miscommunication between the town council, their council, and the planning department. It didn't quite connect, and so nobody knew where the other one was in the process. It was really town council that needed to do a substantive review of a drainage easement, and he had only reviewed it to form, and so people who don't know legalese wouldn't know what that means. So Karina had to sort of close the gap and find out what was going on. And so it really was back on town council to do the substantive review, because the planning board felt that they could not approve even their temporary certificate of occupancy without that drainage easement being reviewed substantively rather than to form. And beyond that, they need to bond for $81,000 for some outstanding conditions of approval that remain. Those were kind of, I think they were contingent on their proposal that's going to ZBA tonight for the second building and ancillary use, which was going to be a contractor yard adjacent to the self-storage facility. And that's going to be sort of, it will be a building structure, and there'll be actual bays, storage bays, where contractors will be able to use that for vehicle storage, et cetera. But that does have to go to ZBA because it's an additional use on the same lot. So that was going tonight. I think it's 7 o'clock to ZBA. And the reason they didn't want to do the landscaping or put up the screening fence, which was a condition for the self-storage, is because they want to be further along with that second proposal. And so they're willing to bond for it. And as long as they issue a check to planning in advance of the January 8th planning board meeting, they should be able to issue the bond and get them their certificate of occupancy without any further delay. It's just caused some upset in the meantime, because this really started to heat up at, I want to say, the end of November. And, you know, because of some of these communication failures, it's just, and the holidays, I think it's just added to the delay and the frustration all around. So I don't think there's any ill intent. It's just a matter of process. And the planning board couldn't, in good faith, issue the temporary certificate of occupancy without the town council really signing off on that drainage easement to his satisfaction. No problem, with no problems there. Then they'll approve it. So and then that goes to the 40B. I did tune into that.
I have this
Sure.
legal question. I just don't know the answer. What's the difference between a review, a substantive review versus to form?
Again, I'm not an attorney or any kind of legal expert, but to form would essentially mean that it's a cursory review, and a substantive review would be a review in detail. So that's probably the best answer I can give you as to what the difference is.
But they're both documentation reviews, not site reviews.
I'm sorry.
They're both documentation reviews and not actually physically looking at the site.
Yeah, it's for an easement, so they have to review the document in
It's
detail.
just the
Yes.
documentation.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
So moving on to the initial hearing before the ZBA last Wednesday, that was for the 40B at 120 Turnpike. This is just the initial hearing. So there's going to be a process that's going to be fairly involved there. I trying to think of when they were going to reconvene. They continued the hearing. They did have a handful of folks that showed up who, you know, had some issues or concerns regarding the adjacent conservation land. They had concerns about the height, which is 4 stories. that's being proposed. There were concerns about their requested subdivision of the lot that they're looking for from the ZBA. So there's going to be some issues for them to parse through. And it's too soon for me to say how that's really going to go. I think the thing that we have to be careful about is steering clear of any assumptions that what's happening at 250 Turnpike at the self-storage facility, or even the application for the ancillary use, has anything to do with the 40B. The self-storage facility, getting that through is really with planning board. The other two items are with ZBA. And so we can't really conflate one thing with another. And so they're just having to take each of these proposals individually, one at a time, based on the particulars. And, that's about all I can offer on that at this point. But, we'll keep an eye on it. And we would really like to see the storage facility opened. I've been tracking that on Facebook and waiting for it to open, and was sort of wondering myself what the holdup was. So it's all news to me as well. The report from Westboro, again, I touched base with my counterpart, Mark Zepp in Westboro. He's the economic development coordinator there. We had probably about an hour-long conversation, very receptive to getting together, consulting, collaborating, swapping notes as needed. He would like to meet probably maybe on a monthly basis. So I think that was a good thing to do. I actually went to some kind of Corridor 9 holiday thing and met him there. So I was able to make that connection. And, they have things set up very differently there, and there are some serious advantages. I was very impressed with the fact that they're able to hold 2-hour meetings weekly with their department heads and the EDC himself as a coordinator to help constituents with one-stop grant applications. I thought that was really something to aspire to. We certainly don't have the capacity, with me being at 19.5 hours a week, to do that at this point in time, let alone to get department heads to do this or agree to do this on a weekly basis. But it just shows you that, they're a little bit further along, much longer established, and it's a completely different setup. He is in the same building under the auspices of community development, and it's economic development, planning, building, conservation, and sustainability all on the same floor. And they have weekly meetings, so they do have the benefit of that kind of collaboration on a regular basis. He did tell me about an interesting mixed use proposal that was going before their select board for approval. And that's going to be where the Staples is located, in the Stop and Shop Plaza. And I guess it's going to be kind of a upstairs, downstairs. You'll have the commercial use along the bottom, residential up on the top. They have not, updated their zoning either, so it was still subject to special permit. But I thought it was worth keeping an eye on how that unfolds. Let's see, the Mass Econ meeting, I've already touched on that regarding the EMC property. And again, I will keep you all in the loop on when that gets scheduled. And then of course, the select board office hours, I went and I met with Marguerite Landry and Andrew Dennington. Last Tuesday, I thought I'd take advantage of the office hours and touch base per your suggestion, Rob and Sam Stivers, about initiating some kind of contact with some of the larger entities around town, including Reliant and possibly Ferris. But again, I'm not sure with the timing on that. we could try to do that, but we also may need to give a little time and space for these various proposals to play out. That was very good. Something came up with Marguerite where, I had gotten the suggestion from the town assessor, Paul Sabelli, to consider looking into the solar field that you guys have discussed before with the septic underneath. And I put that little bug in Marguerite and Andrew's ear, and Marguerite, that was just, she got very animated about that, was very interested. And so I think she's reached out to Paul Sabelli to get a little bit more information on the possibilities for that. I mean, it's could be a viable alternative to the National Grid site downtown to solve some of the wastewater issues, if it looks like Mr. Kwan is going to be letting go of some of these properties in the near future, with that being one of them. And so I think Claire is on. She was able to talk to Paul Pazinski, and he's got, you know, a wealth of knowledge and background on that. And he was already able to make contact with Mr. Kwan's business representative, as well as his engineer, to have a little bit more in-depth discussion about what's there, and what the potential is. So that is going to be looked at as an alternative, I think, to National Grid, because there doesn't seem to be much happening with that at this point in time. So that's something to keep an eye on. I mean, one of the things that I want to just touch on, given that the planning board would like us to just hold off for the time being until the MBTA communities overlay zones are determined and that process is further along, we may need to pivot and look at our implementation goals and priorities, and you know, work on something else instead. In the meantime, there's plenty to do. So I can follow up with you all by email and just put that in front of you again. And if there's something that you would like me to work on, just let me know. And I think that's it for my report. I'm gonna see if I can give it over to Claire. Bear with me 1 minute.
Hey, guys.
Here she is.
Hi, Claire.
Hey, Claire.
Hi. So where do you want to start? What questions do you have?
Well, I don't know. Do you want to talk about maybe how the Route 9 wastewater feasibility grant monies
The
could
status of
potentially
that
tie
is,
into that?
the status of that is at the end of 2023, June, when the time was up, we still had $8,300. Kurt Gartner from the state said, your proposal to use up the money is very good. So and so at the time, this has kind of been moving very quickly. At the time of the what was happening at the end of June, there was a proposal for these 40B locations. And those, just looking at it from the whole wastewater requirement, which was what the grant was for, Kurt Gartner said, use that money and keep going along, which was what happened. It turned out that the 240B places, one at 120 at the time, which was Ferris's which is Ferris's property, because they're over the 10,000 gallon, they're in a different capacity with DEP. So they already have their regulations, so to speak, taken care of, or they're going along that route. The other location that they had was the 250. And they already had capacity for what they were proposing. This whole thing, if you've been following it, is extremely fluid. So it still is kind of like to be determined what's happening. Bottom line is there was $8,300 that was left. I have a report that is going to be finalized and sent tomorrow on $2,000 that has been spent out of the 8,300, so that the state knows, as they had said, keep the money, use it for something good. And I have also contacted a couple of the builders to say, hey, if you've got any questions, please let us know. There's money here to get these questions answered. So that's the status of that. There was one other question, Leah. Help me decide which that was. I can't remember what it was.
Well, that was more or less your update on the status of the grant award with
Right,
any
yes,
leftover
yeah,
monies
yeah.
and how they could be applied.
Right,
I guess it just also leads into whether or not, if the Quan property came into play,
okay, so
that
that's,
could
that's
also
a,
have some potential
yeah.
for Route 9.
thanks. That's a really kind of interesting perspective to net the whole thing out. When the downtown initiative study had been done, the properties that were looked at was the National Grid property. That was a couple years ago. I'm not exactly sure what the town is doing with that. It doesn't have anything to do with economic development in terms of it's gone before the selectmen. They want to make sure that, you know, the site isn't toxic or any of that kind of stuff, which is totally understandable. But the other part is, if you look at the town of Southborough putting together a well-defined look at what are your different options, it turns out that Route 9 pre-treated material could actually be pumped up to the downtown without if there was a site up there, without getting into anything totally technical. I've worked with Paul Pazinski, who has written up exactly what could be done. So from the standpoint of Southborough presenting to the state, have we looked at all of the options? This is one of the things that is included in there. And there are numerous options that are able to be funded, as we have found out going along, in terms of what would be some of the options, would be the best options. However, keeping in mind, in order to put any of these systems together or requirements, we need to change the zoning. So that's where we're at. Questions?
Well, I mean, that's actually really underscores where I'm going with all of this, that without selective rezoning, you know, economic development is going to be slow and hard to come by. This is way overdue. It's old, it's outdated, and you'll have to do this incrementally. That's why I thought MBTA Communities was, you know, a potential vehicle to see at least some of this along Route 9. We don't know if that's where the zoning overlays will end up, based on the planning board selection process. But I really do think that zoning reform is going to be needed to some degree to move certain areas of town along. And that goes really beyond even the effort. And obviously that was a big push downtown, and that's terrific that that was accomplished. But, you know, there's other areas of town that also need to
So I guess that, and Rob knows this better than anybody else, unless I have it wrong. We have the opportunity coming up for the one-stop grant with the expression of interest. And I don't know what the date is, but any
Well-
day now, it really needs to start having not just these little silos of the town's departments putting together, well, we need this, we need that. We're about 0 for 3 on.
Well,
Stop
Claire,
grant?
before we get too far into that, that is a little bit further on the discussion in
Okay,
the
yep.
agenda to talk about the one stop.
Yeah,
And I want to save kind of some of my comments
okay,
for that discussion item. But I do happen to agree with kind of Leah's position and kind of the longer term strategy of taking advantage of the one stop, particularly as it regards in regards to the Route 9 wastewater feasibility study and why it might be an outgrowth from that. So I think we're now at the time for public comment on the agenda. I do see that we do have one attendee in the audience. That is Select Board Member Sam Stivers. I wasn't sure if Sam had anything he wanted to share as public comment.
Sam, I think I unmuted you.
Yeah, no comment at this point. Thanks, Rob.
Okay,
Interested.
fabulous.
What's going on?
And again, I do happen to believe in you know, conversations that can help move things forward. So if there are points that where a select board member's knowledge might help inform the EDC, you just want to raise your hand if it's agenda specific. Love to have you contribute. So moving on to the discussion items. This is something we have spoken about, something that I think that could help us out an awful lot in terms of the quorum. What we need to do, based upon the town charter, is have the committee adjusted from 7 members down to 5. We do have one recruitment out there as well, but we don't have people knocking down the doors to join. If we move the number from 7 to 5, it makes a quorum that much easier to attain, which means that we could have the opportunity to have some members go to kids' soccer games or go on vacations without actually having to slow down some of these meetings. So one thing I would entertain a motion to take a vote to adjust the committee from 7 members down to 5. I'm not sure as chair whether or not I can make that motion. I'm phrasing that somewhat as a question to hope someone else might.
I
that
will
motion.
make a motion to reduce our membership numbers from 7 to 5.
Excellent. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Okay, Karen's got the second. Okay, opening it up to discussion. How do people feel about that?
Is there any
Like-
downside to it? I can't think of anything.
Well, here's the thing that this is just almost a placeholder because the select board actually takes the vote to move it down from 7 to 5. So we're just saying we support it. If in the future we discover that we want to add more people, we just go through the same process again and ask the select board to move us from 5 to 7. That's my understanding. It gives us a little bit more nimbleness right now, particularly with only 4 members.
Robert, Claire, do you know if we've done this once before? At least in my time on the committee?
I'm not sure. I do know that we had 9 people at once.
We had
And
9
then
people,
we got
but we
down
still had,
to, yep. And
but
then
we
we
had
got
7
down
members.
yeah.
Okay, so we had 9 people on it, but we still only had a 7-member.
No,
board.
no, it was actually at 9 and
So-
moved down to 7.
So we have done it before.
Yeah.
We've done this before. Okay. Just trying to remember.
I don't have any other comments about it. Thanks.
Okay. So I guess I'll take a vote. We'll maybe do a roll call. Leah, that'll give you the chance to talk with Mark Purple and Andrew Dennington and kind of like just make them know about that. So roll call vote as I see him. Karen?
Aye, or yeah, yes.
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 Michael Nordstrom?
Yes.
Michael Moorhead?
Yes.
Okay, and Rob, yes, so it's unanimous. Leah, if you can take that on.
Sure.
I think I'm going to just switch things on the agenda, just them in a different order and go one stop and other grant applications and a reprioritization of master plan implementation goals. Partially because Claire did bring that up, and I think one informs the other. Again, the Community One Stop for Growth gave away $164 million in this past grant round for fiscal year 2024. That 164 million was spread out amongst 161 communities throughout the state. Southborough is not one of them. A lot of the people who applied did it for things that could be used here in Southborough, such as taking a look at zoning, taking a look at development sites, taking a look potentially at unused or underutilized municipal buildings and whether or not those sites can be developed. I think those things inform the master plan implementation goals a little bit, because how can you implement something if you don't at least take the opportunity to study, take advantage of state financing through grants to help make you as knowledgeable as possible? So I suppose I'm somewhat frustrated a little bit that with this Community One Stop and knowing that Route 9 is a priority and that development needs to happen there, that we can't at least begin thinking about applying for those grants and taking a look at that zoning for that future development. Again, this year, fiscal year 24, was 164 million. I expect, but it's no guarantee, that the same thing might continue next year. I'm not sure what those numbers might be. And I would hate that we miss an opportunity to really make a push for that Route 9 development by not at least considering and coming up with a strategy for the Community One Stop for Growth applications. So again, that is a bit of me on the soapbox. As chair, I'm allowed to do that. But it's one thing that I think is vitally important, that even if planning does not want to apply for grants to take that next step, that we at least make sure that they and other members of municipal staff know that it's out there, that it's important, and the opportunities could be great if we use it correctly. I think that does us, no, it shouldn't engender any ill will from anybody, as long as we make sure that people know that the One Stop is out there and that we can apply. So, Leah, I guess one of the things that we should try to do is make sure that everyone knows what the potential grant applications could be at town hall.
Okay.
And maybe I don't know, answer those questions if they have any, like Mark Purple or Vanessa.
Well, I mean, to what degree? I'm going to be able to answer the questions about the One Stop grant funding. I may have to defer to you on that, because again, that would be a maiden voyage for me to apply under the One Stop. However, I will tell you that I did talk to Melissa Danza yesterday in conservation. She put forth that she's, talked to both Colleen and Karina Quinn in planning, and would like us to get together on a monthly basis, just sort of as an interdepartmental meeting, just to say, okay, what have you got in front of you? Share information to see how we can better communicate as these opportunities arise, so that we be better positioned to take advantage of them. So I think that's a great thing to try to aim for in the coming year. And I did put that bug in both Karina and Colleen's ear as well before they took off for their holiday week. I did run into Bill Cundiff yesterday at Town Hall. And I said, hey, you need to get in touch with me because I need to know what you need. And he mentioned there was a Willow Street drainage culvert that is in very bad shape right now that he could use some assistance with. I think Bill is so overextended at this point in time. It's very hard to get in front of him at this point in time. I think they are looking at maybe getting him some additional help at DPW, another engineer, ideally, to help him manage his workload. But you know, again, it's sort of the way that things tend to go into these silos, and you don't have anybody liaising between departments or boards and committees. And it takes time. As you all know, people don't do this because it takes more time and effort. I'm certainly happy to make a stab at it. And if you want me to devote my half time, 19 and a half hours a week to try to close the gaps on some of this and continue to reach out to folks and promote this, I'll certainly do that. I am supposed to meet with Mark and Vanessa next Wednesday to touch base, and so I'll bring it up to them as well.
I would say this, and again, it goes to one of the things that I have been most frustrated in the hope that we're finally going to get a full-time position. I think as long as Mark and Vanessa know about this one stop, know when the webinars are, know what the development continuum is, and where we could potentially get the money, that's good. I think if there's something that rings a bell with one of them, where the EDC working through you can help make a stronger grant application, we should try to do that.
Yeah.
Because again, we do not have a full-time grant person and we don't want to miss out on any of these opportunities. So what I would suggest is, like, because you have limited time and it's the business recruitment and the business retention and it's the marketing and it's the everything, as long as they are reminded about it on a continual basis, that is enough for now until it comes time for the grant EOI application. And then we can relocate and reallocate some of your time. I just think people have to know about it because, again, I'm reading the press release right now. $164 million went out the door.
Right. No, it's there.
Yep.
Mark did say when I met with them last, you know, that they've applied under the one-stop grant in the last 2 cycles. They haven't gotten it in either case. And so he knows that, you know, they've got to change up their methods here and their strategy in order to make a success of it on any future attempts. So, you know, the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. There is going to be a different tack that's going to obviously need to be taken. I think, you know, probably taking a critical look here at the first of the year at what we could apply for under the one-stop grant. I mean, we really need to identify that and start working on it. And I don't know what the deadline is, Rob, as far as, I know they opened up the expressions of interest. I think that was open as of what, the middle of this month. They were starting to accept those. What's the deadline?
Not quite yet. It's actually going to be opening in January.
Okay.
So it's really hasn't launched yet. Partially it was because there was the late announcement of the fiscal year 2024 awards. So it's probably going to be opening in January, EOIs through the middle of March. Applications itself open sometime in April, due the first week of June. That's my sense. I would also say that, and I'm going to be very careful here. Sometimes it's the go big or go home philosophy. If you try to put all sorts of caveats to where you want this, oh, we only want to do zoning on this particular area, and we want to make sure that the development and the size fits the character of the town. And we don't want to become an urban area, but we might be looking to do a little bit of housing. That is not going to do it. They want projects that could be transformative and have an economic development impact. And so maybe it's something larger scale and thinking big, where we might have to go if we want to get something. And I probably did not say that as well as I should. So with that being said, I think that's enough discussion on that particular.
Well, can I
topic.
just add though on that I think the tension is very real and the concerns are very real in the community about conservation and open space and climate resiliency, things of that nature versus development, additional housing. And so that's where I feel like doing a careful analysis is going to be really important, because we're not qualified to do it. We need to bring in a consultant to look at this at a more granular level. And the thing is that Southborough has its own DNA, and it was an ag community, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And the fact that people don't want to see large areas of Southborough change as to character, I mean, that's where you have to get really strategic about it. So with that said, I just want to add that I did get an email from Camille Jeanlin. She specializes in small business economic development. I do believe that their TIP funding, their grant funding for technical assistance, that application may be due here in the short term, but I am actually supposed to meet with her next Wednesday as well. And she and her senior planner at MAPC, Travis, would like to come out to Southborough. And so I'm going to see, what kind of assistance we might be able to get from MAPC on some of these fronts as well.
Okay, no, that's excellent. So because I switched the order within the agenda, the reprioritization of master plan implementation goals. Route 9 still is the best bang for the buck from an economic development standpoint. While I do agree that a look at the rezoning could put us in a better, quicker position for redevelopment of some of that, I still think it has to be one of the key priorities for us. So does that adversely affect what we have on the goal list within the master plan?
No, I wouldn't say at this point in time. It isn't that we're not going to be putting any time or energy into it. It's just that we may need to pivot in the short term as far as our approach and our timing. But I don't think it's something that we're going to be able to take our eye off of. In any case, Route 9 will still be taking up some time and attention for the foreseeable future. There are things that I could be doing if, I want to pivot to the branding implementation goal. I can be working on that. Again, we talked about that last time. That's a longer term endeavor. Again, I would have to be adding in a little bit of time each week off my 19.5 hours to do the research necessary to undertake that. And so in that sense, it's sort of a longer term undertaking. I can't see producing something on that front for, could take a year. If you're going to do it correctly, you need to reach out to, the Historical Society and the Historical Commission and look at some of the historical records and, consider the branding and identity relative to all that. So that's a little bit something that, none of you need to worry about that, but it is something that if you wanted me to work on it, I can work on it a little bit at a time. There are things that were on that list that, again, we could continue with. I think the thing that Claire is looking into with Paul Pazinski about the possibility for an alternative wastewater capacity at the Quan property is also worth tracking. And that's for downtown, I mean, initially that would be for downtown. It's also got potential implication or use for Route 9. But yeah, I mean, there's certainly other priorities that we could be looking at in the short term. I kind of think of it short term, midterm, long term on those implementation goals.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Excellent.
So I guess that takes us to the annual report. That's going to be due on January 19th. And so I was going to use the quiet this next week to start fleshing that out and putting together an outline. I wanted you all to weigh in as to what you would like to feature, highlight, or include in that. I can send you a copy. Claire sent one along. It's also available on the website, I believe, but I can send you a copy of last year's report if you want to review that. I think it's only, probably 2 pages at most. And again, you can always reach out to me via email and provide your feedback through that channel. On the remaining budget funds for this fiscal year through next June, we have $13,273.86 left to spend. So, I mean, I've got some minor things that I might like to spend a little bit of money on, but nothing over $500. Most of it I think is under $250. So I've got maybe 1 or 2 items to consider, which I can share with you again via email. One of them is going to the Massachusetts Municipal Association, their annual conference. There were a couple of workshops that I would like to attend if you think it's valuable and worth my time.
100%. Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so that's going to be a $240 price tag on that. And then, I mean, there's still the option of using up a little bit of money on some software, but again, I'm getting by just fine at the moment. We did get our constant contact upgraded to the standard level, and so I'm going to reach out to them to get your additional login credentials, and we'll share those with you as soon as I'm able to get those issued. That
What was
just
this?
actually,
What was the software? You want to get some Adobe software, didn't you, Leah?
yeah,
get?
I mean, I would like to get the full Creative Suite, but again, I've been getting by with an Autodesk photo editing platform, and for anything I need to do vector wise, I have also a little workaround on that. So I don't know, do you all have any ideas of how you might like to apply these funds? I will add that I did follow up through Vanessa to reach out to somebody at the Southborough Gardeners, because we have $600 set aside for them in our budget. And I just want to make sure that they know that that's there for them and available as they update the planning in the planners downtown. I think they do that on a seasonal rotating basis. And so Vanessa told this gal who to reach out to. I have not heard from her, just like I haven't heard from Kevin Miller. I think people go, oh, who is this woman and why do I need to talk to her?
But I think Mary Kay was involved with them, and she helped plant the planners, and so we put some money into there. Right, that's what we did.
Yeah, it's
If anybody remembers.
$600. It's $600, and so whatever they need within that budget, I can follow up with this lady again. I just need things to settle down here a little bit after the holidays.
Because the fiscal year still goes till July.
It'll
right?
go through June.
Through June,
30th.
right? So
Yeah.
so when they're planting in the spring, they could use some. It's
Yeah,
not like we have to use it
they
up
could.
now. So
Yeah.
I mean, I know we talked about after that little Rotary event was kind of a lot less underwhelming than we wanted it. Did we want to talk about renting out a bar for an afternoon or, cocktail happy hour kind of thing, since we have money in the budget. Just throwing it out there, and I don't know if we would get the attendance, but I feel like if we want to have more, exposure in the town and everything, maybe it's worth trying something.
Yeah.
Something
Sure.
fun and festive, yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's a great idea. And again, if we're an economic development committee, if we do it at a restaurant or something here in town, it's, I think that's a really good idea. And I think the other thing that would be informative and potentially a benefit is bringing in people from other communities and other organizations, such as inviting the person from the state's Office of Business Development, inviting Karen from the Corridor 9 Chamber, inviting Mark from Westboro, to demonstrate that although we are doing economic development for Southborough, we realize that we are a regional teammate and we want them to help work with us. And I think that might be a nice thing. And, quite frankly, if we're doing it at a place like Tomaso or something like that, maybe there are people from outside of the community who have never been there and say, oh, this restaurant is kind of nice. And then they think about bringing their family and helping support like that. I think it's a great idea. I think it's something that maybe we should try to look to plan maybe in the springtime when it gets a little bit warmer and better.
Can I count on you, Karen, to do some homework on that?
sure.
As far as like maybe reaching out to a restaurant or a facility that you feel would be appropriate and just maybe getting some quotes?
Of course. And what time frame? Should we do March, April, or
Warmer.
warmer?
I think May.
May? Okay.
I mean, although I know that people's schedules also start stacking up around then.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we could maybe do a summer thing, but
A lot of people kind of go away for the summer,
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm at a
That's
Cape
true.
House. They kind of exit
Mhm.
south.
yeah. Well, I don't know, maybe late April into May, would that?
That could work as long as it doesn't conflict with school vacation.
Mhm.
And maybe once we
And
know
Easter,
when
yeah.
town meeting is going to be, it can kind of be like celebrate town meeting, find out what economic development means to the town going into town meeting or something like that. And I think later is always better because there's people are much more likely to go out if it's sunnier, if it's warmer, and if the
And
weather's
if there's an
better.
outdoor, if it's even like at Ola when if they had the patio out, so.
Yep.
Right.
No,
Great.
that sounds good. And again, it's the reason why I'm thinking of May as opposed to June is we don't want to be coming up against the end of the year fiscal year budget in case we
Yep.
have to postpone a week or something like that. Okay.
Okay.
April school vacation is
2015,
15 through 19.
okay.
I think so.
Of April.
Of April. So not that week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when is town meeting? Does
I
anybody
have
know?
no idea. I should know that, but I don't.
Let's see if Sam knows.
Yeah, it's March 23rd.
Oh, it's
Okay.
that early
Yep.
for what? I have this recollection of myself sitting out in the blazing hot sun on a ball field.
That was over at Neary a couple of years ago. That was during COVID. I think.
Okay, yeah,
21, I think.
And town bylaw says it's supposed to be by the end of March.
really? Okay.
Yeah. So
So that's because for the life of me, I'm like thinking, oh yeah, well it's going to be in June again, but that
So did
Okay.
they have to adjust it that year, Sam, because of COVID? The date?
I can't recall. They may have. there were some strange things that happened. State law allowed for flexibility for that kind of thing during the COVID process.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, those things are good to keep in mind for sure, those dates. You know, kind of
Well,
bookend.
and again, maybe it's like, maybe there will be some, economic development, things that we can build off that came up during town meeting.
Well, and it's also an opportunity for people to just get together socially and
Mhm.
after the, whatever comes up at town meeting, let off a little steam. So,
Anyway, invite some of the other, committees, invite some of the other, and again, it's going to be open to the public. We won't have to post a quorum agenda or stuff like that. At least I don't think so. Maybe we'd want to just, research that a little bit, but I think anything that can bring attention to the fact that, there are businesses like this, and Karen, I really like the idea of hosting it in a Southborough business. It, makes all the sense in the world,
We have to.
and
We have
talking
to.
with people is a good thing.
right.
I like the idea of doing it prior to town meeting, close to it. Particularly because there are agenda items in town meeting that might have an economic development committee spin on it, so that we can discuss those in advance. You do it afterward. I don't know. I feel like people get burned out a little bit, quite honestly, of local government. And I'm not sure, but yeah, the idea that people could get prepped in advance a little bit for subjects that we have some interest in, we really, I think that.
Yeah, that I definitely see that point. The one thing, when I was thinking it was June, I was like, oh, we can do it before leading into town meeting as well. The one thing about when town meeting isn't St. Patty's Day the week before, so we might run into some conflicts with people
Mhm.
partying, having
Drinking
too
green
much
beer.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know, but it's something to consider, and maybe Karen, next EDC meeting, you can give a report on what you found about like the costs and some of the locations, and
Okay.
maybe you could like give some thought to the logic behind having it before or after town meeting.
Okay.
And just kind of come with a report.
when I don't want Karen to feel singled out on this one task. I mean, I will assist.
Okay.
This is
Yeah,
just
yeah.
sort of to get the preliminary, the quotes and stuff, get some estimates so that we know what we can budget for it or what we should apply to it. And then I think we can all maybe jump in and contribute as needed going
Yep.
forward.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so I think that's the end of the discussions. I know we got the minutes from Leah.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I had just a couple more things I needed to go back into the recording and confirm on the 29th. So if we could just table the minutes from November 29th, 2023, and hopefully you were able to scan the October minutes. I did get a little email warning from the town clerk, and so I can't be too often remiss with these. So I'll endeavor to do better going forward.
I will make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from October 12th as written.
The one thing that I noticed, and I just wasn't sure if I missed it or it was an oversight, is that I don't know that Sam Saunders was at the October meeting. Listed there.
It's very
Yeah, I
hard
know
for
it was
me to hear what you're saying. Can you speak a little closer to the microphone?
Sure.
Thank
When I
you.
looked at the October meeting, I don't remember Sam Sturgis being at that meeting. I know he was at the November
He
meeting.
came in and then he left, and so that's why I said it was partial attendees or partial
Okay.
attendance. So Claire and he
I
were,
know he was at the
they,
November meeting, but not
Yeah.
the October meeting.
yeah, he stopped in and then he had to leave because like Claire, he was going next door to the CPC meeting.
Yeah,
Right.
like Michael, I didn't think he was there for the full time, but now that you remind us, he did stop in for a bit and then leave. So thank you. Yeah, no, I'll second Mike's motion. And Leah, thanks for making that partial attendance note in the minutes.
Sure.
Is there any discussion?
Nope.
Nope,
Hearing
I'm
none,
good.
okay, so we have a motion and now we have a vote. I'm gonna go as I see people. Karen,
Yes.
Michael Nordstrom,
Yes.
Mike Moorhead,
Yes.
Rob Anderson, yes. We've approved the minutes for October 12th. We're tabling the ones for November until next meeting. Seeing nothing else on the agenda beyond scheduling the future EDC meetings. I know that and Leah, the MMA trade show is fabulous. It's great networking. You can pick up all of the swag that you want at all of the people who are in the exhibit hall. The presentations, if you stay and listen to them, are fabulous. Thank you for thinking about going. The question to you is, would you rather have the meeting before the MMA trade show or after?
Sorry, I'm running off into another room to plug in my computer before it dies. It looks like that is going to be on the 19th
Yes.
through what, the 20th of January. So let me see, I got to back out of this view of my calendar.
January 19th is a Friday.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind doing a Thursday evening if you want to look at the 11th, the 18th, or the 25th.
Your annual report is due the 19th as well.
That's true. Let's take that off the books then. Thank you for reminding me. Good call, Michael.
So the next week, the January 22nd week.
Yeah.
Is that what you want to do?
We've got, anytime really that works for you all. I know that Thursday evenings was kind of the standard choice, but if you want to deviate and do Wednesday, that's okay too. So that would either be the 24th or the 25th.
Both of those are free on my side.
I'm fine. 24th or 25th.
If it matters, I like Wednesday. I tend to go into the city on Tuesday, Thursday. But I can do
Okay.
anything. So I mean,
No, it's Wednesday the 24th.
Maybe for
might be-
drinking at a bar, Mike, or what?
yeah, for work.
No, just I tend to go into the
A
bars.
job. A job. Huh? Income.
24th.
No,
is
Mike,
good
are
for
you
me.
going to the MMA trade show? Because I know Stantec does it. Don't you guys usually have a booth there?
Some other portion of our company probably could. We're giant size.
Yeah.
But we do have, community development and neighborhood type stuff. Probably.
How
Yeah.
many employees in your
Yeah.
office?
Tell me if you see us there. I mean, my office is under 200, but our firm is 25,000 worldwide. So
Well, right,
Yeah.
exactly. I used to work for AECom, so I
Yeah.
knew it was.
Yeah.
Is it multinational,
yeah, yep,
international?
yeah, same deal. Yeah, with the
Yeah.
competition.
Yeah, Mass
So you wanna
Development is
do
going to be
Wednesday
having
then?
a table there. So I'll have the I'll
that
be
the
there on
takeaway?
Friday. manning the booth?
I froze.
Yeah, Wednesday, the 24th then.
Okay, awesome.
Wednesday, the 24th, okay?
Yep. And do people have a preference for in person via versus Zoom?
In person.
Yeah, I tend to like in person better. So maybe Leah, see if we can maybe get the senior center or town hall. One or the other.
Okay.
Michael, is 7 o'clock okay for start time for you?
And for me, yep.
Yep,
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
Karen, do you want 6:30 or 7? Is there a preference?
No, I mean, I like 6:30 just because sometimes it's 7 and it's like 9 when we get home, but that's fine. I mean, if people want to start at 7, it's fine.
No, I've got no problem starting at 6:30 as well. Because again, I'll try to get better at this, keeping things on target and not doing so much talking. But I think starting at 6:30 is if people can
As
do
long
it.
as people can make it. I mean, I don't, but Mike, do you care?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. If I'm in town, it's easy.
Okay, so why don't we aim for 6:30 in person on Wednesday, the 24th? We'll get that in the calendar. We'll make sure that, planning board, select board knows about that in case they want to join us. And with that, I'm going to I think I can make this motion. I make a motion to adjourn the EDC's meeting of Thursday, December 20th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, okay. And because this is Zoom, I have to take a roll call vote for this. Karen,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Everyone, thanks so much. Leah, I sent you a couple of emails.
Thank you.
Which could
Okay,
be useful.
I'll review.
Have a
All right,
Okay.
great,
fabulous
thank
holiday.
you. So,
Okay,
yeah, you
thanks.
you all as
you.
well. So we called it at 7:51 p.m. for the record.
Yep.
7:51. Awesome.
Okay,
Okay,
we'll
thanks.
be in
Bye.
touch.
Okay.
Merry
Bye,
Christmas.
everybody.
Merry
Bye.
Christmas.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.